Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining. If you have any questions as we go through this webinar, please type them into the questions box on your screen and we'll get those answered at the end. John, with that being said, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Horner. I'm with P3 Propane Safety, where I am a senior safety and compliance. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about operations and maintenance manuals, DOT HAZMAT security plans, and fire safety analysis. So why is this should you be concerned as a marketer? Why should you be concerned about this? Well, from speaking with Railroad Commission inspectors and DOT inspectors, I've learned over the last few months that over 70% of propane companies in Texas are not in full compliance with these things. So DOT audits are up by as much as 50% this year, and regulation fines can range from $5,000 to $150,000 depending on the severity of the problem. So other common things that we are often overlooking are policies and procedures, DOT HAZMAT security plans, fire safety analysis, DOT audit compliance, emergency action plans, operation and maintenance manuals, our ongoing training programs, and our monthly safety meetings. So are we getting our safety meetings done every month? Are we up to date on them? So one of my favorite little slides here, I call it, it's never a problem until it's a problem. The question I have for all you marketers out there today is, are you prepared to show your company is in compliance if this happens to one of your customers? So let's talk about operation maintenance manuals. Required, first of all, NFPA 58 requires us all to have an operation and maintenance manual. It's any system in liquid service, irrespective of the container size or total amount. Procedures should address normal startup operations, startup operations, shutdown, emergency shutdown procedures, startup following a major change to the system, consequences of deviations and steps required to correct or avoid deviations, and equipment inspections. Operators can use the manufacturer's procedures or instructions provided by a vendor as a basis for their maintenance procedures. And procedures should be updated whenever changes are made to the system. Maintenance personnel should be trained in the hazard of the system and in the maintenance and testing procedures applicable to the system. And contract employees, so if you bring somebody else into work, they should also be held to that same standard. Operations and maintenance manuals must be stored on site of the facility they pertain to, and all maintenance records must be kept for the life of the equipment. Maintenance records must also be stored on site unless the facility is unmanned. Going over to DOT HAZMAT security plans. These are required by 49 CFR subpart 1, 172-800 through 172-802. Any facility with 792 gallons or more in a single container. So if your office has a 1,000-gallon tank out there with a bottle dock, you must have a DOT HAZMAT security plan. One of the top requested items in the DOT audit. What I mean by that is one of the first things the DOT inspector is going to ask you for when he shows up is, may I see your DOT HAZMAT security plan? It must be site specific to the facility that you have it at. And at a minimum, it must address the following items. Personnel security. Do we have personnel files sitting there for all of our employees, or all of our employees, you got unauthorized access? Are our employees trained to ask for identification from unknown individuals who are on the premises? And then your en-route security, or your drivers trained on steps to take to keep their cargo and themselves safe while they're out on the route. Your company's security structure is basically who put this plan together and who is in charge of implementing it. Security duties line out what everybody's job is during an event of an emergency. And security awareness, are you training employees on the plan? Do they know what to do? Do they know step-by-step what to do in any case? In an in-depth plan for training HAZMAT employees, are you doing your updated training every 3 years for every HAZMAT employee? And how you will go about doing that. Excuse me. So on a fire safety analysis, this is required by NFPA 58, subchapter 6.29.3.2. Facilities with storage of 4,000 gallons or more is what NFPA says. Texas Railroad Commission only requires an FSA for 10,000 gallons or more aggregate on one site. So you can find that in LPG gas safety rules, table 9.403A. And your fire safety analysis should include the following: the effectiveness of product control measures. That's your ESVs, your back check valves, your automatic shutoffs, all that stuff that you have on your plant. Also contains analysis of local conditions within the container site, other flammable liquids stored there, occupied buildings, bobtails or trucks in the yard, surrounding establishments, or sorry. So we can move on to the next one there, Jane.
Sorry about that.
So exposure to or from other properties, population density and congestion within the site. In other words, is there any schools, hospitals, buildings with a large amount of people somewhere near, or is there any other hazardous material, or possibly, for example, a good one would be if you had a recycling plant next to you where there's a tendency to have fires and you would have to be protected from that. Probable effectiveness of plant, back up there a little bit, thank you. Probable effectiveness of plant brigades, fire brigades, or local fire departments based on adequate water supply, response time, and training. Most of our facilities, we don't have our own fire brigade, but we do have a local or maybe a local volunteer fire department. It's a good idea to find out, any fire hydrants around you. We can get this information. If we have a good relationship with the fire department, we could get this relationship information from them by having a quick conversation about the fire hydrants around our plants, how much gallonage they pump out per minute, how long is the response time from your local fire department to get to your facility in the event of emergency, how many trained employees they have, and at what level are they trained. Sometimes it can be a little difficult getting a hold of the fire chief, but if you do, most of them are willing to work with you because they do have their training just once a year on the HAZMAT refresher training. So anytime they can get their crews a little bit of free training, what I used to do is I would invite them in, share my fire safety analysis with them, go over all the emergency controls in the plant, and also show them on the bobtail while they were there, the emergency shutoff switch and how to react to it if they found one of our trucks or one of our competitors' trucks in an accident on the side of the road. As far as the fire safety analysis goes, once you've done it, you share it with your fire department, handing them a copy, going through everything, emergency shutoff procedures. The reason we do that is we're not there all the time. We'd like to, if fire department beats us to the plant in the event of emergency, we'd like to contain that emergency. So we would shut that down just as fast as possible because they already know where the remote emergency shutoffs are. And by the time we get there, the situation will normally be under control. So I know this was brief and rather rapid. If there were any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Great. So a couple of questions have come in. The first one is, how does the DOT inspector determine what the fines are going to be for each violation?
The inspector himself does not make this determination. What happens is they do the inspection, they report their findings and they turn it in. And then I guess there's a set standard that they use. It's going to be between this number and this number, depending upon the severity of the violation, how long it's been going on. We did have a customer who had a DOT inspection. They found out they were doing their monthly meter creep tests incorrectly. You could easily tell by the paperwork that it was being pencil whipped by everybody there. They had a total of 12 bobtails, and their fine ended up being just a little over $160,000 because they had pencil whipped them all for all the paperwork that they had given the inspector was easy to prove they were pencil whipped because they were all filled out and they all had the same mistake on them. And that probably came about just because of their training. Somebody had showed somebody else how to do a monthly meter creep test. He had been trained wrong. Everybody in the future got trained wrong, and nobody was ever checking it to verify it. So depending upon the severity, it can range. It's a wide range, and a lot of it obviously depends on your preparation and your attitude towards them while they're there. The inspectors are more apt to, if you have these things and they're all sitting on a little safety shelf where keep all your manuals, your FSA, your O&M, your policies and procedures, everything else, they walk through the door, start asking for things, you can merely turn around and grab it, hand it to them. You look way more prepared, you're ready to go. They are more apt to take a lighter approach to your inspection because they see you're making the effort to make sure things are done correctly. And your second question was, or second question that came in?
Yeah, it is. I have multiple facilities, but some aren't manned. Where can I keep the O&M manual since it has to be on site?
Oh, when I was still on the marketing side of this business, I would keep them I bought me some 4-inch PVC pipe, cut it off in about 1.5 foot section, capped one end and put a threaded cap on the other end. And I just roll the manual up and put it inside there to keep it out of the weather. Obviously, we can't leave it hanging on the fence there or next to the shutoff switches because the weather out here is going to tear it up as far as the moisture and the sunshine fading everything out. So that's what I would do. And I'd just take a stencil and mark on the outside of their O&M manual. And it seemed to work pretty good when the Railroad Commission would show up. They had easy access to it. I have heard rumors, and this is not confirmed yet, but I have heard rumors that the Railroad Commission is looking at allowing us to put a QR code out there, and their inspector can scan it with their phone, and our operation and maintenance manual will show up. That has not been approved yet, but that would sure make life a lot easier for all of us if we could do that.
Great. Okay, and that looks like the only two questions that we got. So unless you have anything else, we can go ahead and close out.
I do not have anything else, but I'd like to say thanks to everybody for joining us. And I'd like to say if you have any questions, there's my contact information. You could reach out. I'll be happy to answer questions that maybe you come up with after you're off the webinar.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.